What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Been a minute. Been a minute since I made a video. Been a minute since I streamed, honestly. Took like 2 weeks off, so we're good. Now we're back. And I want to make a little video talking about a few of the storylines. As we open up spring practice here, and what by the time you're watching this 2 weeks, week and a half, there is a lot of intrigue and interest going into spring practice. And I think there's a few I say storylines, more like position groups, honestly, that I'm really looking to see because we're not going to find out a ton in spring practice. Florida, Texas, a few of the other SEC schools have already started spring practice, like starting a week or two ago. So everyone's in the honeymoon phase. Like, despite an injury happening, that's the only thing that can be like anyone's going to take a negative away from the spring. Like, it's all sunshine and rainbows when you have a new coach and it's spring ball. So I see Florida going through that. I know Texas is salivating over their new roster, which reminds me of where we were this time a year ago. So I just want to go through the storylines. I don't think we're going to learn a lot. Like, you're not going to be able to take too much away in spring practice just because the intensity and energy level, it's not the same as fall. Like, I don't care who the coach is or whatever. Spring is more about just establishing the culture, getting the new system, and fall is what I feel like where it gets turned up a notch. 4 storylines to watch, 4 position groups really, and let's get into it. And let me click ahead here to get into this is pretty much all but one of these. The last one is going to be on offense, just because with the defense, there's a lot more returning, just like all the coaches for the most part, a lot of key players. Like you said, you keep Blake Baker, keep Jake Olson, Commanders, keep Peoples, you keep a lot of these guys. So there's a lot more on that side of the ball that's set in stone. And even like some of the people we got on defense, it's very easy, like, oh, they're going to be penciled in starters, like Prince, TJ, Benefield. Like, all those guys are coming in and starting day one. Lane, some of the safeties are interesting, but I left them off this list. But really what I want to know is the offense, because that's where all the newness is. I think that's Kiffin's side of the ball. We got Weis, highest paid OC in the country. So I think all of us, me included, are rightfully going to be fixated on that side of the ball when spring ball practice starts. And look, there's only one place to start at super, basic, but obviously most intrigued by the cornerback room. Quarterback room, for a number of different reasons. The room is completely different now. You bring in 3 guys, Landon Clark, Longstreet, and obviously Leavitt. What I most want to see is, what can he do? Because so far all we've seen is him riding the bike, which it's not like, concerning. We knew we'd be at this point with him, but I want to say in Kiffin's last press conference, he maybe mentioned seeing if Leavitt maybe towards the end of spring practice would be able to do anything at all. So that's definitely one thing to look out for. Because honestly, when I think about this 2026 LSU team, right? So much talent. I think we're going to be, I don't know. I know for a fact that the offense is going to be so much better coached. The one thing that does scare me a little bit is the Leavitt injury situation, because that's one way I can see like the season being derailed a little bit, right? If, say, Leavitt, because it is a tricky injury, see Leavitt comes back and I don't know, he just keeps having issues with the foot and he ends up not being able to play, or he does play, but he's like compromised because he's not as mobile. And then maybe, let's just say, Longstreet, Landon Clark aren't ready or aren't good enough to play to get us to where we want to go, which is the playoffs. That's probably like the number one thing I would say could derail our season, sitting here on March 11th thinking about it. What can Leavitt do? What are the reports that come out about his health? I know for a fact what I better be hearing is that he's in the VR room, because I think that's something that coaches and players might say from a season ago would have helped some people. I don't expect him to be able to do anything, but I would like to at least hear updates. What I'm more intrigued about, and why I have them here first, is, what does this Landon Clark Longstreet battle look like? It's also going to be very important, for both of them, him and Longstreet, to be good, just to give the defense a look. Like I said, there's so much newness. I can't have what I heard from like Michael Van Buren last year in fall camp, where he's just like, he can't even hit routes on air. Not that throw shade at him, but we were all hearing really bad things about him last year, just in terms of where he was at. There's no healthy Garrett Nussmeier to give the defense a good look this year. Leavitt's not going to practice. I need Longstreet and Clark to step up and give this team really, really good looks, because it's not only important, to give the defense a good look, but we got a lot of work we need to do with the receivers, with the running backs, the O-line, who we're about to get to here in a minute. So, I'm honestly more for these two. What can then they give us in spring than necessarily what they're going to be able to give us? Every practice window is going to be massively important for this team, just because there is so much newness. Like, you can say, "Oh, we're bringing Kiffin, this great offensive staff with all these great players. We're meshing him with Blake Baker's defense. It's going to be perfect." Well, there's still kinks, and with all this newness, I guarantee you, the team we're going to be in November is going to be a lot better team that kicks off against Clemson. So, what look can they give us if Longstreet and Clark aren't that good? It's going to hurt us in spring practice 1,000%. So, that's what I want to see. Also, there's expectations for Longstreet and Clark. I mean, if I had to guess, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm guessing Longstreet got close to, if not more than $1 million. I like to say he's on the Van Buren method, right? You're bringing him with the expectation that he's not going to start this year. It would be potentially the year past that. So I want to see all this money we're paying for him. Let's see how it goes. Let's see what the reports are. Same thing with Clark. We brought him to be the third quarterback, and I'm pretty sure he's getting a hefty six figures. So everything I've heard him say, and his quarterback coach that went on some shows said, I'm very excited. But what does he look like? So quarterback room, I just want to see, honestly, what does the talent look like? It's relatively simple, but hopefully they can give us some good looks. O-line is right up there because of what we witnessed last year, how terrible it was. So a couple things before I even get into players. I'm interested to see the dynamic between Eric Wolford and James Craig. What is their dynamic, right? Because James Craig was the O-line coach in 2019. We won the Best O-line award, obviously won the national championship. So, how does he mesh Wolford? I'm just interested to see, like, the drills and everything, like, who's really running the show. Or, hopefully they're just both sharing it. But O-line is littered with all new faces. And I put Seaton in the thumbnail. I didn't put him up here because I'm not super interested in him. Honestly, I just want him in bubble wrap for a majority of the spring. Because we know what we're getting out of him. We know for a fact he's starting day one. So, and we already know he's good. But the rest of these guys, Bah, Harper, and Darian Stray, right? Yeah, Darren Stray from Kentucky. That's him at Papa High School, which is crazy, in Michigan. Crazy name. Well, these are, and I should have put Solomon Thomas here now that I think about it, but these are the guys I'm really looking at because I want to see who gets that first run out there in spring. That's what I'm really interested to see with this and the receivers, which we'll get to here in a minute. What are the first group of guys that run the ones on day one? If I had to guess right now, my prediction would be Seaton at left tackle. Guards are in. Baugh's one of the guards. I don't know what he played necessarily in Maryland, if it was left or right. Let's just say he's left guard. You're obviously going to have Braylon Moore at center. We can pencil him in, no doubt about that. Then the other guard, I'm pretty sure Baugh, who's at Georgia before, he was high profile enough where I feel very confident, like he's for sure a day one guy. Harper, I read some good things from the camp he had at Ole Miss months and months and months ago. I don't know, does he pencil in? Solomon Thomas, a guy no one's talking about, that I've been saying for months on, is a guy I'm going to have my eye on. Former 5-star, got hurt right before the season started last year. I think he might have came back and practiced a little bit at the end, but we never really seen anything of him. I thought it was very interesting that he stayed because, he only really came because of Alex Atkins. Atkins is now gone. And the first year just went so poorly for everyone. He didn't play. I kind of just chalked up that he would for sure leave, but he's still on the roster, which makes me think there's some sort of plan for him. They see something in him, which would make sense because he was so highly recruited coming out of high school. Does he get the right guard spot? Does Harper get the other right guard spot? Like, they didn't bring him from Ole Miss for no reason, so that'll be super interesting. And then I think Harper, people have maybe said he could also play tackle. We'll see. Right tackle is probably the biggest question mark you have on the entire O-line because I feel good about Ball. I obviously feel good about Seaton. Braylon Moore kind of fell off maybe towards the end of last year. I think we all agree that's because of health. And when he was 100% healthy at the beginning, he was great to start the season. So I don't know, but Stray, he didn't really play necessarily that much at Kentucky. But once again, Wolford's coming from Kentucky, so he obviously sees something in him. And don't forget, another guy I probably should have thrown up here, Weston Davis. Another dude that was super, super highly talented. That was also very interesting that they brought him back when you have so many people on offense that left. Not talking about O-line necessarily, receiver, quarterback. I have the dudes they kept on offense. That tells me that Kiffin and staff, they see something there. I would love. I shit on Weston Davis for an entire year, but I would absolutely love it if he came back and lived up to the billing. Certainly wouldn't be a good look for Brad Davis though, but. If I had to guess, I would think Stray comes out there first, but I don't know. There's just so much to figure out with this O-line. And all I'm saying with them putting them up here is like they're probably the biggest question mark on the whole offense. We're not gonna necessarily see like, oh, I guess maybe a little bit we'll see like how they perform against the defense and stuff like that, which they're gonna have really good competition on that defensive front for sure. I really just want to see how they line up first and like what do the rotations look like in the first practice, even if it's on air. I'll put my prediction in now. Seaton, Bah, Moore, I'll go Harper, and then I'll say Stray. But even with that, I mean, that's a lot of question marks on the O-line. Like, I feel like a lot of people don't know that much about Bah. So you still have basically a side of the O-line, right guard, right tackle, that you need to figure out. And not super highly recruited guys in terms of like this transfer class that we brought in that are potential over there. Just because you don't get that many great O-linemen that enter the portal, like a Seaton, which you see how much money you have to pay to bring him in. But it's worth it because, imagine we didn't land Seaton. What would this O-line be looking? It would be very concerning. I have my concerns about the right side. I really just want to see how they line up in the rotations. But drop your starting line prediction for the first practice of spring ball in the comments. I'm interested to see what people say. Maybe I'm missing some people as well on the O-line. I'm sure people will give like Bryson Martinez a shout. It's hard for freshman O-linemen to start, but maybe there's some other people I'm not thinking about, but we'll see. Moving on next, which I think might be the room that people are most excited about that's new, is the wide receivers. Last year, we brought in a lot of highly touted guys, and I'll just say it didn't work out. And then I think because things were going so poorly and the rotations were so shit, I think it led to a lot of drops, the receivers being disconnected. Look, the receivers are all divas. They all want the ball, Like, there should have been no reason with the amount of money we had invested into the wide receiver room that we should have led the SEC in drops. It's ridiculous. So the bar's very low to exceed that. And we brought in a shit ton of guys. I mean, if I tried to put every transfer wide receiver we got on the screen, you wouldn't be able to see the purple background. It would be ridiculous. But in terms of what the storyline I'm most looking at is kind of the same as O-line, is what's that first four for first five maybe that they roll out there? Like, who do they foresee the ones as? Like the O-line, drop your predictions, what you think that might be below. I'll go first for me. I'm thinking right off the bat who they might have. I'll go Harris from Hawaii outside. I feel like Wilson and Brown, you can definitely pencil in. For sure, Brown. And then I don't know. Because this was the one thing, and I've heard other people talk about this too. A lot of the receivers we brought in have like a very similar body type. Fast, lean, not necessarily like super tall. And this was a bit of an issue we had last year, which I guess was what Nick Anderson was supposed to be. It just never worked out. Like a big body X receiver, throw it up, 50-50 balls, catch it, red zone threat, maybe some yak. Didn't bring in a ton of guys like that. I'll talk about Roman Mothershed on the far left in a second as like a sleeper, but I would love it if you lined up with the ones. If you know me, know how I feel about him, but I don't think off the bat that's where he's going to start. But who's going to be that fourth receiver? I put Jackson Harris in there. A monster season in Hawaii, and he's tall. The taller, I guess, than the other guys. But like Winnie Watkins, he definitely did not come to LSU to like ride the bench. I think he's got that receiver ego. I don't think he was making that move. He wasn't definitely going to play. Think about a guy like Corey Barber, another guy like Eugene Wilson, Winnie Watkins, Jace Brown body type that you brought in. Ended up being a 5-star. None of us really saw coming. So, what does that look like? There's some other guys. Trey Brown from Old Dominion, another guy from North Florida. I mean, just fucking dudes all over the place. Flash Wright, another dude in that body type, is a guy they brought back. There's got to be a plan for him. He's the only receiver from last year that came back. So I would imagine he's going to have some potential playing. So I'm super interested to see who gets like those reps first. I mean, it'll all shake out by the time the season comes around, but I just wonder in their head, who's going to get those reps? You can use the portal and think of like the money certain guys got. You can say it doesn't matter, but it does. You're paying guy X amount of money more than the next guy. You're going to want to see him start. He's probably going to get that first one rep, right? Like how if Leavitt was healthy, there'd be no question about it. He would be the first quarterback running with the ones. On that logic, I would definitely think Brown and Wilson would definitely be two of the first four. But past that, I don't know. I would say Harris because he's tall. I guess I'll go Winnie Watkins for the last one. I don't feel super confident. So one thing that concerns me a little bit with receivers is a bit like last year. They just, like I think for Ole Miss, a guy like Stribling, like a big body, made a lot of big 50-50 plays, at least what I watched down the stretch for Ole Miss. I don't know who that could be. I know that guy, but a guy who has that potential for sure is Roman Mothershed. Troy on the far left, too. I think is the most underrated pickup that we got in the transfer portal on offense. Just go watch his highlights. I posted them on TikTok, but you can find him on his Twitter page too. He didn't really play that much for Troy, but he was at that Kansas Independence JUCO from Last Chance U. He was there before. Go watch his practice highlights from there and from when he was at Troy. Just straight ridiculousness. He's 6'5". He's super athletic, super like wiry, twitchy, one-handed catches galore. Like if he can put it all together, I think he's probably still very raw. Moscano said an NFL scout told him, like, just based on his athleticism, size, like that's a Sunday guy. This is an NFL receiver. So I think he could be a dark horse Disney guy. Me personally, like ever since I heard Moscano say that right after we got him, I've been very, very like excited for him after I watched his highlights. That's a guy I'm definitely gonna be watching. He could definitely fit that role as like throw it up X receiver. And then I know I've had that concern about didn't get like that big body guy, but some other people told me, which I would agree with, like Trey Green also kind of fills that role to an extent as well. So kind of like the O-line, I really just want to see, who they give the nod to, and does it start the first practice, and does it change over time at all? And then to wrap it up, the only thing I have for defense that I'm like really, really interested by, it's not like anything I don't think we'll learn too much about in spring practice. That's why I put it last here. But it's definitely the position group I'm going to have my eye on the most through spring, summer, and fall. The cornerback position. Probably going to be a hot take. I wanted them to do what they did last year in the portal with cornerback. Like, and maybe they just didn't find this guy, but like they found Delane and they've like, oh, we can really work with that. He could be really good. And I can't imagine they even figured he would be as good as he ended up being. I think they got to give a whole lot of credit to Corey Raymond for that. But when I looked at the roster, losing Delane, I was wondering if they would go out and get somebody. I know a lot of people be like, you don't need to get out. We got Finney coming in. Jakeem Jackson's a guy who's interesting. I think they're high on, it seems like. Can he fill some sort of role? And then obviously you're looking at like DJ Pickett and PJ Woodland to take the steps. I'll just be super honest. I feel really good about Pickett. The bowl game was a little concerning for me. That was definitely seemed like his worst game, and that's when he had like the most opportunity, but he's still a freshman. That Houston team was not full of scrubs. They were ranked. So, but it did give me a little concern. What type of jump does he make going from year one to year two? Because we're really going to need, if we want to, be a national championship contending team, which it's not necessarily my expectations for the team, just because there's so much new. But when you spend, mid 40 million on a roster, the expectations kind of to be at that level. So, what type of jump is he making? Same with PJ Woodland. Been a big like diamond in the rough get for us. And he's played really well so far, better than I ever would have thought. He has some limitations just because of his size. Can he take another step? At the end of the day, like a guy like, D'Angelo Ponce or whatever, Indiana, you can be freaking 5'5", and if your technique and your instincts are good enough, you can be a hell of a player. So can he make another jump? Because, like I said, Keem Jackson, he's still there. He was also banged up a little bit before the season started and at the beginning of the season. Can he be a guy that rotates in? I imagine people be like, you expect Pickett to become the number one corner. Then you have Woodland, who can be the number two guy, which he played that role a lot last year. And then Finney, Harvin Finney can be like the new DJ Pickett, like the freshman, super talented guy that plays in spots maybe more and more as the season progresses, which I would love that. My only thing with Finney is like, he reclassified, so he's really young. I don't know how much I would expect him to be like day one SEC player. That's why personally I wanted them to maybe get like a really good cornerback. But the fact that they didn't, and the fact that they added like safeties, linebackers, and obviously D-line tells me, I guess they think that room is good, which they very well could be. It's Corey Raymond's decision, and there's honestly no coach I trust on the entire staff more than him. So I'm not knocking it. I was interesting to me that they didn't go out and get one of these guys. But on the defensive side, that's the only one where I'm like, ooh, I'm kind of interested to see how that shakes out. I'm just interested to see corner. That's probably like maybe my one concern spot. The last thing I'll say is I know there's some smoke when we got him. Delane's little brother that we got, is he going to stick at safety? Or some people say maybe he'll convert the corner. I think people are just saying that because of his brother. But, we'll see. It's something to keep an eye on. I'm super excited for spring practice. I can't wait for it to start. Really, like I said, I don't think we're going to learn too much about this team, like how good they're going to be, or, whoa, this position group's going to be good and this one probably going to struggle a little bit till the fall. I don't think we're going to figure that out. But in terms of like, I like to see all these new guys that brought in, where does the staff in their head before any, real practices started on that day one? Who's going to be the guys that are starting? That's just as like a diehard fan. Unfortunately, what I'm looking forward to see is just who's getting those first reps. So not super interesting, but it'll give you some insight into the psyche of Kiffin, Glasscock, and all these position coaches. Drop your comments. Who do you think is going to run out there for the first starting O-line and starting receivers, and anything else you're excited to see in spring ball? So that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one.